Welcome to the CEO Tech Talks podcast, where vision meets impact. I am your host, Ambreen Ahmed. Each episode, I sit down with exceptional leaders who are shaping the future of business, technology, and transformation. This show is about more than just success. It's about clarity, purpose, and those bold decisions that light the way forward. Join me as we uncover the insights, challenges, and breakthroughs from today's most inspiring voices. Leaders who are redefining what it means to lead in a rapidly changing world. This is CEO Tech Talks. Let's dive in. Today I'm joined by Radhesh Kanumury, Managing Partner of Suvan Ventures based in the US. Recognized as one of the most influential VCs in India, Radhesh has led many investments in the AI-based SaaS companies to exits and works closely with early-stage founders, backing them not just with capital, but with conviction, mentorship, and a long-term vision for building real businesses. Welcome, Radhesh, and thank you for joining.
Thank you, Umbreen, for having me. It's a pleasure to be in your podcast.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into it. Tell us about your role and how it fits into Suvan Ventures.
Yeah, so I'm managing partner here in Suvan Ventures. As you mentioned, Suvan Ventures is a venture fund based out of the US. What we primarily do is that we invest in early stage AI-based SaaS companies having development team in India, but selling to the US markets. And we come in at an early stage and we help them with not only investment, but also a whole lot of mentoring across different aspects of the business, right? From product market fit to GTM strategy to channel strategy, branding, messaging, etc. And wherever possible, we meticulously make introductions to prospective customers, partners, and investors who can come on the follow-on routes.
Okay. Well, what led you into venture capital and why early stage investing specifically?
So it's an interesting story how I got into the venture capital world. I was working as a software architect in the software division of IBM, designing solutions around application servers, database, application integration, portal, content management, security, infrastructure management, etc. Did that for 12 years, worked with a lot of clients in enterprises and system integrators and ISVs. And then I decided that I got to do something new, given that I've been doing this role for 12 plus years. And this role popped up for heading the IBM India Accelerator program. And I took it up and thought, let me give it a shot. And at that time, uh, presence of IBM India in the startup ecosystem was negligible. So I grew that particular division from zero presence to 1100 startups part of the program and was considering generating good revenues from startups for IBM Cloud. And I also conducted India's first nationwide B2B startup challenge. It was called IBM India Smart Camp. A whole lot of companies that were picked up by me scaled pretty well. Many of them went beyond Series C, D. If I look into the cumulative value of these companies which I had picked up during that particular time, it is north of $6 billion. And besides that, a lot of companies got acquired. I did it for around 3.5 years, and then I decided that I saw this gap for early stage SaaS companies in India needing very focused capital and focused mentoring. And that's how I started up with the idea about coming up with a very focused fund for early stage B2B SaaS companies in India. So immediately after that particular role of heading the IBM India Accelerator program, I co-created a fund called Arca Venture Labs with 3 other partners. The thesis was very similar to Suvan Ventures, investing in early stage SaaS companies operating within the US corridor. And we made like 27 investments while I was heading that particular role, out of which we got 5 exits and 15 companies got their follow-on round from some marquee investors. And now basically we have set up Suvan Ventures, which is basically AI-based SaaS companies in US cross-border. So that's that's been my journey.
Okay, wow. So much success. Congratulations. How did you shift from Arca Ventures to Suvan Ventures? What was that gap that you filled there?
Yeah, so Arca Venture Labs, we had three more partners along with me, and we made a good number of investment. We found good number of success in that, and then after these companies got that initial up rounds and exits, etc., then I decided to see that if we can carve out another fund. So that's how Suvan just came into existence.
I see. Okay. And it's US based.
It's a US based. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So, how long have you been involved in Suvan Ventures.
2+ years now.
What does a typical day look like for you?
When it starts at 10 a.m. in the morning and then closes at around 11:30, 12.
Okay. And what do you do in that time?
So it's primarily going through whole lot of deal flows that we are seeing right now.
Okay.
So evaluating the deal flows and then speaking to founders who have pitched to us, then ourselves doing some due diligence on the companies that we have spoken to. Then we also have to keep reading ourselves in terms of what's happening in the AI space across different domains. So there's a lot of research that goes into, and we also have to think about what kind of areas we can invest into the basically the form new investment thesis in healthcare and ESG tech and finance and HR tech in supply chain. So all a lot of research goes into in cybersecurity. So a lot of research goes into those areas. So and then prospective investors also are coming in to invest into the fund. So having those conversations with prospective investors. So that's basically how the day looks like. And then I also do my meditation on a daily basis. I do yoga, and then I'm also learning vocal music, Indian classical music.
Okay.
Little times goes in there also.
That's so cool. I'm so glad you mentioned that. We're just such a go-go culture, right? And we do need to take some time for mindset work and
Absolutely.
relaxing.
Very important.
Okay. So, how do you decide when to say yes or no to a founder?
So, in terms of evaluation criteria, we have one is that we entertain only companies that have their MVP in place. On a base level, the criteria is that they need to be AI based SaaS companies
Okay.
and basically looking into the global markets. That's the base criteria. And then we look into see that if they have at least their MVP in place, and then we have a conversation with them. I not only go through their deck, but also very strictly go through their demo. And then based on that, we come up with our evaluation in terms of what we found about the founder, what is the total addressable market, what are the areas of differentiation they can bring in or already have. The differentiation can be in multiple aspects. It could be their product, it could be their IP, it could be that they're focusing on a particular customer segment which has not been catered to, or it could be how they are servicing the customer. So a lot of areas we look into, and then we finally say that okay, let we make the investment or not to make the investment. In areas sometimes when we want to further evaluate the company, we reach out to prospective customers to evaluate them. We also reach out to subject matter experts in that particular area to take their
Mhm.
opinion. So we basically do double, triple validations in some cases.
Okay. And what qualities consistently stand out in the founders that you back?
So I think the clarity of their thought process and how they communicate and how they demonstrate is something that really stands out for founders, I think, who are a notch above than the remaining founders. That's what I would say. If you ask me one quality.
Clarity. So important. I agree. How do you balance intuition with data investment in decisions?
So data is a very critical aspect. So as I said, we look into the total addressable market. What is the optimal market that they can get into? Worst case scenario, best case scenario, how much revenue they can get into in the next 2, 3 years. So all these are like, and we also look into the competitive landscape. How many players are there? How many players that can come in? And if we make that investment, how our investment going to look like in the next 4 years, 5 years after they get an upfront. So all these are like data backed uh, scenarios that we look into, and intuition is something that is ingrained into the back of the mind. Interviewed more than 3,500 plus B2B SaaS founders, so it basically runs in the back of the mind while doing the evaluation.
Well, that's a lot of experience to also match with your intuition. And I think both of those are probably part of your success. And that's brilliant. So, what's a red flag that founders often underestimate?
So I would say that when they're showing the deck, they basically talk about the best of the like class in terms of what the features they have and what they can do, etc. But when it translate, but it typically doesn't translate into demos. So that is one red flag I would say that is a big, at least a big red flag for me.
Okay.
And other aspect is that, as I said, the clarity of thought. They keep rambling about the same point. That's again a red flag. Uh, Third is basically if we know for sure that what they have said or shown is doesn't hold much substance, but they keep on holding and defending that. That's again a red flag.
Okay. What advice do you give founders before they start fundraising?
I would say that see quantum of funding they need. I think that is the first assessment they have to do. And after that, they have to, so let's say if they are looking at a 1 mil, 100K to 1 mil kind of round size. So they need to start looking into those class of investors who would be basically coming up with those kind of check sizes. So,
Okay.
and after that, I'm talking more of early stage founders. Then very thoughtfully they need to have in terms of their pitch deck, very crisp pitch deck they need to have. There are like 8 to 9 key elements in a pitch deck. They have to ensure that it goes into that. And after that, you can make a list of investors. Investors are many right now, especially if you're talking about early stage investors all over the world. If we take US, if we take Europe, if we take Middle East, India, South Asia, many investors. I mean, there are institutional investors, a lot of them, a lot of family offices there. So if they get a founders get their act right, I think it's not really that hard to get investment. So basically, they need to make the list of the investors they need to reach out to and come up with their the pitch deck with the message they need to write to these investors, and a very good likelihood that since being a cold messages, a good number can be they don't get a response. Typically, even if they get a response of 1%, that's a good
Mhm.
ratio in terms of how they can go about engaging with uh, like investors. I'm assuming that they have their uh, ingredients in terms of the product market fit established, or even if the product market fit is not established, but they at least have their MVP in place. They have the story right. Then that's how they can go about approaching.
Okay. So, what major shifts are you seeing right now in the venture landscape?
Yeah, I would say that a good focus is now going into AI. If I'm talking about VC funding in the technology space,
Hmm.
a good focus is going towards AI. And within that, I would say that there are like very focused funds for healthcare, very focused funds for retail, very focused funds for commerce tech. So I think there is a good uh, specialization coming up for in the VC world. So that's basically what I'm seeing that. So if we look into 10 years back,
Hmm.
most of the VCs were generalist. So they would invest in
Yes.
B2B, B2C, D2C across different industry verticals,
Mhm.
across different horizontals, etc. But as we see right now, in order to create the differentiation, there is a focus towards very specific areas that VCs would like to go in and make the investment.
I see. Okay. And then how has this shift impacted your business?
So we have, as a strategy, just focused on. We were initially focusing on B2B SaaS investments, but over the last, as we saw the momentum of SaaS companies shifting towards AI, and also we feel that AI is going to be the next big revolution in the technology space. So we have shifted, and basically we have said that we're going to be investing in only AI based SaaS companies in the coming years.
Okay. And so, what sectors or problem spaces excite you right now?
I would say that given the whole generative AI, I mean, AI has been there for quite a few years. If you look into traditionally, there is a machine learning models that have been there. Yeah, and then there is cognitive computing, which is image recognition, NLPs that were there. But I think the last few years, we saw the advent of generative AI, which actually opens up a new plethora of problems it can solve in the way existing things are being done. So, for example, we already started seeing in legal tech how earlier we had AI which was able to understand the documents and then create summaries, understand the indemnities, understand the metadata such as the due date, who are the respondents, etc. Now with generative AI, we can actually create a legal document with all the different inputs. So that is something new that is coming up. For example, I will take another example of RFP, or basically the supply chain. So you have a RFP coming up from the from the uh, uh, enterprise, and then the seller will basically had to fill all that different points into that particular RFP. With using now LLMs and generative AI, it is very much possible to pre-fill a whole lot of question and answers. So when I was working in IBM as a software architect, I used to spend hours and hours together in responding to those RFPs. That actually can be extremely shortened with generative AI. If we look
Okay.
into the customer service, I think it's days are not far off when we call up a customer service number and it will be answered by an AI agent instead of an actual human being. We
I
already,
think that's already happening.
yeah, I mean, maybe not in that scale, but what currently is like people are taking the use of all the prompts provided by the generative AI in
Hmm.
answering the questions. But I think in a mass scale, if you look into, I think that's very much very likely to happen. The BPO industry is going to be completely transformed with this changes. If we look into, let's say, so we have invested in a company called Synergetics AI. So they have been doing some pioneering work in the space of agentic AI. So when we talk about AI agents, they are doing a very specific task. But what happens if we need to accomplish a task between two different agents, and these two agents are out in two different organizations? A classic scenario that we can foresee is that a sales officer talking to the chief procurement officer of another organization.
Okay.
These actual human beings, it will be two AI agents. They'll be communicating amongst each other. The purchase officer will provide, the agent will give the requirements, the sales agent will come up with the response, negotiate on the pricing, and then complete the whole transaction. So that's where we are looking into agentic AI to uh, AI agent communication. So yeah, and then we look into HR, the interviews very likely to be happening at the first level of interviews. Actually, there are quite a few companies now which are already providing that kind of solution. The first level of interviews being handled through AI agents. Uh, then if you look into sales side, we have the guiding the sales account managers to tell them what they need to do to make a sale happen to that particular account. So basically, sales enablement kind of thing.
Okay.
And then the AI is now able to understand what emails have been exchanged, create a summary of that, and then update that into the CI. So that's another thing that we are seeing in terms of use of AI. So yeah, so AI is getting adopted in DevOps, as we all know, the code generation that is very much there. But in terms of the CI/CD, the release management, build management, that's where also AI is also getting incorporated. So I mean, I can go on. So this is
No, it's just mind blowing. There's so much that AI is doing right now to run companies. Like you've
that's
got,
it.
where do you like you of course you need human oversight for all these functions, but at the same time you have these AI agents running around and doing all of this for you internally and externally.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
it's mind blowing.
Yeah. So it opens up a whole new gamut of solutions that for enterprises which they have not been able to solve earlier.
What do most people misunderstand about venture capital?
I would say that not many people understand about the venture capital, the role they play. I feel it's a very important role in shaping not only the companies that they work with, but also in terms of the economy of the country in which these startups operate on. Basically, if VCs are, I think, I would say, a smart money, which the founders can not only leverage the capital, but also their experience of working with many different companies and their network and connections and their mentoring, etc. That's basically what founders can leverage besides just capital.
Okay. Well, speaking of mentorship, how involved do you like to be post investment?
We would very much like to be involved with the founders. So we actually give the option to the founder in terms of what frequency they would like to have those
Okay.
communications with us, the calls. So it ranges between 1 week to 2 weeks to kind of 3 weeks. That kind of schedule founders give out, and that uh, frequency of the calls on a regular basis helps us to also think about what are the things, probably in which direction they are moving in, and what are things we can do for them, for helping them to in their different aspects of the business.
Okay. What's the most common challenge these founders ask you for help with, by the way?
Now, I would say that more than help, it is basically to see like what areas we can improve on, the GTM. We work as if like an extension to their strategy team. A lot of time it is about brainstorming about whether we can have this GTM. If this is not working, then what else we can do in terms of outreach, or whether we can have some partners involved in this particular space. Should we change the messaging? Should we change the marketing aspect? Sure. What kind of social media post we can put to create that awareness? So all this kind of very operational things we go about discussing, and then also we also in between talk about the strategy in terms of where they need to look out for, what should be their approach to hit like a 1 million ARR in the next 1 year, or
Mhm.
whatever the duration think about. And to achieve that, what are the things they can do? Do some backward calculations, etc.
Okay. So now more about Suvan Ventures. What's working well for you right now and what's been frustrating?
I would say that a lot of companies, there's AI is something that we feel very excited about, and then we feel this is going to be the next big revolution. But what is also happening is that a lot of noise is coming up in this particular space. So we have to be super careful in terms of the companies that we are evaluating in. People will just build a wrapper around an LLM and share that this is a AI solution that we are providing for a particular client. But we have to really get into the details about what kind of workflow they implement, what kind of techniques are they using for solving for a specific uh, client or a specific industry. Are they using RAG, or are they using fine tuning, or is it a combination of both? What kind of like deeply entrenched workflows they have in terms of extracting data from CRM, putting that back into different applications, creating a repository with their own machine learning in place. So these things actually are very important. So a lot of times we don't see that maturity coming in.
Okay. And how do you solve for that?
I would say that founders need to be more, if they have to really create a differentiation, they
Okay.
have to really think about the solution hard. They need to go more deeper in the technology side, in the product side, and see how actually it is solving a business problem for a particular enterprise.
Okay. So which metrics are you most focused on improving within Suvan Ventures?
I would say that so we track the companies based on the fair market value, but more importantly, I think we are focused on their revenues. If the revenues increase quarter on quarter or on a half yearly basis, the other things best fall in place, whether it is in terms of fundraise for the next follow-on rounds or acquisition targets, etc. So our focus is uh, like have a strategic, or basically a very concentrated effort towards GTM.
Okay. For the companies you invest in, correct?
That's right.
Okay. And then what about for Suvan Ventures proper, like the organization that you're a managing partner of? Like what metrics do you want to improve for Suvan Ventures?
Yeah, I would say that basically from a fund point of view, once these companies get to the next round,
Hmm.
that's when the fair market value of these companies will improve. But as I said, like that's a byproduct of if the companies are doing well, the fair
Yep.
market value will automatically fall in place.
Okay. So where do you see Suvan Ventures in the next 6 to 12 months from now?
I would say we'll be making few more investments. We have made 3 investments right now. In the next 12 months, we should be making another 4 to 5 investments. Hopefully, we're seeing some up rounds of our existing portfolio. So that's where we'd like to see the portfolio companies or the fund.
Okay. So if you could solve one major challenge right now that you're facing, what would that be?
I would say maybe uh, a problem for the fund, is it?
Yes.
Okay. I would say that improvement about our awareness. But I mean, our own brand awareness has to improve. That I would say that a lot of new venture funds have come up in the last couple of years. So we have to make our presence felt in this set of VCs that have come in. So that's what I would say that.
Oh, okay. And how do you plan on doing that?
I would say like planning to write more articles.
Okay.
So I on and off have been writing articles which were published by different media companies in India. So I think we need to increase the frequency of that, and also coming up with some thought leadership in different segments and areas. I think we are in a good position to do that. So that's where we intend to do that.
Okay, great. Well, Radhesh, thank you for joining us on CEO Tech Talks. Your perspective is a refreshing reminder that venture capital is ultimately about people, trust, and long term thinking. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, Amri.
For listeners who want to learn more, visit suvan.vc or connect with Radhesh Kanumury on LinkedIn. Thank you for joining CEO Tech Talks. I hope today's conversation sparked new insights and inspiration for your own leadership journey. Until next time, stay inspired, stay visionary, and keep leading with light. Brought to you by Neura AI Consulting.